The best haircut for thin or even fine hair utilizing a hair system. So this applies to anyone who's got fine or thin hair, but also if you're wearing a hair system, this is going to be really ideal for you. So anyone can benefit from this video. This video is in partnership with Lavividhair, and Lavividhair to me makes the best, most natural hair systems or hair units that you can find. I really honestly specifically love their thin skin poly base the most, which is this right here. It is 100% human hair. The technology that goes into this is phenomenal. It's the most natural looking as far as the hairline goes. I've worn this, I've used them, I've tried other ones. To me, if you're looking for the most natural hairline, then I would suggest a poly base. And the link to this particular unit will be in the description. And also with a special discount code, TheSalonGuy, you get 15% off of your purchase. These things aren't cheap, so 15% off is going to be very, very helpful using code TheSalonGuy on Lavividhair.com. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be demonstrating, don't go anywhere, I'm going to be demonstrating a haircut that really is going to take this to a whole other level. And the thing about hair systems and also just fine hair in general is that what you're really looking for is ways and methods that make the hair appear thicker than what it really is. And I know people who are losing their hair, it's a very touchy topic, and I, throughout the years, have learned all sorts of different tricks and techniques on cutting fine hair to make it and keep it looking as thick as possible. If you are a hair unit wearer, as you know, some of them can be very, very thick, almost too thick. So this may not really apply to you, but in my experience, the best thing you can do is to thin out the hair system quite a bit. So again, it looks more natural. There's a lot of people wearing hair systems and hair units that are just so thick and so heavy, and to me, it just screams, I'm wearing a hair unit. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If it's good for your confidence, that's awesome. But I prefer a more natural look, which to me is more on the thinner side. Now, not thin meaning you look like you're losing your hair. I mean, that's the whole point of wearing something like this. But thin meaning it's not so heavy and it's a lot more acceptable and natural, as you can see into this mannequin here. All right, so let's get started with the haircut. The first thing with any sort of hair system and any haircut in general is you have to make sure that you have some sort of connection depending on the look that you're wearing. So for this particular look, we are going for more of a kind of a spiked up, more textured type of look. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shorten these parts quite a bit in through here, simply because it's just a bit too long, and I want something that is going to look like it's a bit more blended in throughout the top where the hair unit actually is and the area where it starts to blend in. So having a haircut that is designed to thicken hair is going to be best. For fine hair, the longer your hair is, the more difficult it's going to be in order to create something that's going to keep the thickness to it, right? Because all that hair is just simply going to weigh down the rest of it, and it's just going to split down the middle or down the side. So you don't want any hair splitting. What you want to do is have hair kind of coming together, right, and bunching together to create a thicker type of look. So generally, most people have thicker hair throughout the sides, throughout the back, right in the bottom, and it's a lot finer towards the front. So what I tend to do with these types of haircuts is I always make sure that when I'm cutting hair, I'm working from this part and making sure that I'm going towards the front, right? Going shorter to not necessarily even longer, but just the density, because I want to maintain density throughout the finer or thinner areas. And that's really, really crucial, because I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot of bad haircuts in the past where the haircut causes the hair to actually look thinner right? Because it's overly layered or it's not cut properly, or they took off hair in areas that wasn't really supposed to be taken off, and a whole bunch of other reasons. But honestly, what you really want to do is you want to make sure that you're going, shorter into the longest points to make sure we're keeping that, right? So now we have the foundation throughout the sides and the back here. Now I'm not going to say it's not perfectly blended in, just because the hair unit where the system connects is pretty high up here, and I just want to leave a little bit of length just to kind of demonstrate for the haircut. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the layering. And the layering is very, very important, right? Because that removes weight and it allows the hair to have texture. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the hair straight out from the head, and I'm literally following the head shape, right? Again, you want this to look as natural and as real as possible, but at the same time, you want to make sure that whatever is being cut, it's the right hair that's being cut, right? And it's being cut the right way, if that makes any sense. So, you can have all sorts of hair in your head, but then if you get a haircut and it's not right, that's going to really affect the outcome. So when we're trying to thicken up hair, we actually, even though we're cutting it, we do need to have hair in order to be able to work into the style. If there's not enough hair, meaning if you thin it out too much or it's too short or whatever, it's going to cause an issue. Like I mentioned before, if it's too long, it's going to be even harder to do it because the weight, right? The weight. So what I tend to do is I cut and I go back and analyze. I'll cut and I'll go back and analyze to really make sure and check out how everything is really coming together here. So we are going for a shorter look in through here. And now we're going to start to work our way towards the top, which is the most important part. So what I like to do is I work from the back and I go to the very, very front. And what I do is I'm literally creating kind of like a mohawk section, right? A mohawk section right down the middle. And that is what I'm cutting, right? I'm literally just cutting right here as my section. Now, as we get towards the front, this is where things get a little bit tricky, is you want to make sure that you're still cutting hair, but you want to make sure that you're not removing unwanted weight. That's the key. So what I'm doing is I'm over-directing back just a little bit to preserve some of that weight right in through here, because this is the key part. And if you cut this too short, as you can see here, the corners may be a little bit exposed, right? So now we are going to work into the corners, and that's the roundness of the head. And this is where, again, it's very crucial that we're cutting what needs to be cut and that we're leaving what hair that needs to be left without it making it look even thinner. So here we are on the corner. This is probably the most crucial part of the haircut as far as camouflaging any sort of thinning areas. And I'm bringing the hair forward and I'm clumping the hair in one thick section, right? Because what happens is that's creating a protective base for the section, where if I took a really, really fine, thin section, right, and I just went and cut it, I may be taking off too much hair. So I like to take a much thicker section in one shot in these areas to preserve the maximum weight, right? As you can see in through here, we can still kind of tousle it, and there's no really holes or gaps or anything like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, where I'm going to come around here, and we're going to cut to follow the head shape. And now I'm cutting the corners. And the corners really, depending on the look, but that to me is what makes the hair grow out and look good, because that is the connecting point between the sides right here and the top. So here we are once again in the corner in the front, and I'm going to take this all in one section, one big kind of chunk of hair, and there's the hair that needs to get cut off, but it feels fairly thick. To me, that's a good sign, because what I've done is I've protected that weight right in through here. So when you're getting your hair cut, or even if you're cutting your hair yourself, you're trying to do something, you want to make sure you're leaving maximum weight in throughout the corners. Now for the very, very front, I'm gonna bring this all down and I'm gonna cut it to a length that I think is ideal. Now notice, right, this is really, really one of the key points of this, is notice that I did the front the very, very last. And what I'm doing, my goal is to thicken this section up as much as possible. I want this to be the thickest part of the entire haircut, even though it's the finest or the thinnest. Another thing to keep in mind is when you pull the hair down, that's how far it's going to extend up. So just be careful not to cut the front too short to where you lift the hair up and it comes right back down, right? It needs to be, you need to leave a little bit more length if you're holding it straight down, because if you cut it to here, it's not gonna go anywhere. So however far down it travels is how far it's gonna go back. All right, so now what I'm doing again is I'm just going back in and I'm connecting the pieces and connecting the dots. And if you need to go any shorter, what you wanna do is you wanna work the shorter pieces around the front, right? You wanna make this the exact focal point of the haircut. And if all of this is too long, then go back in and cut it shorter. But keep in mind, what you're doing, again, is you're working into this part to make this look the thickest it possibly can. So you just need to really keep in mind that whatever hair you're cutting, you need to be sure that it's for a specific reason, right? So we are looking good in through here. Let's just shake this up a little bit here. Now, as you can see, to me, this looks like the most natural hairline you could possibly get unless you had a normal full head of hair, right? Because it does have a little bit of slight recession, not a whole lot, but the thing is that it's very believable. And the way I cut this, by keeping the corners here the thickest part and by cutting the top shorter enough so that when I style it and use any sort of styling products, it's going to, come together and make the hair thicker rather than thinner. Now, depending on the product that you use, that really makes a big difference as well. So I suggest, and I'm going to show you which product I would use for this, either a clay or a paste. Something that you want to stay away from are products that are very, very oily, because that's just going to really weigh your hair down even more. You want something that's going to build volume and build texture. A volume like my talc powder, my hair boosting powder, which is really good. That works great on fine hair because it's literally just a powder that binds the hair together, and it's so pliable and easy to style. Or I'm going to be using like a clay or a paste, something that's just, again, not shiny, not oily, no pomades, things like that. Something that is going to really thicken up the hair. All right, so these are my two new products. This is a grooming hair paste and a cream hair clay. So what I want to do is I'm going to use the cream hair clay simply because, one, the technology of this product is amazing. So this scoops out very easily. Just take a nice finger scoop like so. And you're going to work it through your fingers and a little bit through your palms. And I suggest leaving the product a little bit creamy so you can get it through the hair very, very easily. Now what's going to happen is, with this product in particular, as you're working it through the hair, it's actually binding the hair together, making it thicker, and it's transforming the texture from a creamy consistency to a more matte type clay consistency, right? It's not pulling out any of the hairs at all. It's really easy to work into the hair. And the more you work it in, the more of the matte finish you'll get and the more texture you get. But you can see what we've done here is look at all that volume, right? All that volume is set in place now, and the focal point of the haircut really is right throughout the front here because it's the thickest looking, right? As you can see, this all works in towards the front, and this looks great because we kept that density. And this is the big problem here that I see a lot of times happening, is that if you cut these corners out, it's going to look like thinning, like you have no hair right through here. And if it's not layered properly, this is all going to be too thinned out. So what we did here is we built up the volume to make sure that you're getting the best results. And again, this could be done on someone who is wearing a hair system, which obviously this mannequin I have a hair system on, or if you're not and you just have finer or thinner hair in general. But I just want to show you guys how natural you can make a hair system look just by cutting it the right way. So if you're a professional watching this and you're interested in getting into this type of work, right? Doing hair replacement or putting on hair systems and things like that for people, it's really a unique art. And I learned how to work with fine hair and thinning hair basically on myself many, many years ago. I learned all the secrets and tricks. I used to have people cut my hair where they bring all this hair up and they over-direct, they do this, and it becomes so thin that my hair looked thinner after the haircut than it did before, which is, again, the opposite. So in order to find the right stylist or the right barber, you need to make sure that they have experience. Believe it or not, barbers, they may work out really well if you're going for more of a cropped look because they're used to cutting hair really short. But what you need to make sure is that whoever's working on your hair, they are really an expert in applying hair systems and they know how to cut hair properly. Because like I've said, I've seen disasters in the past where someone will just make the hair thinner. And let me know in the comments below if you've ever gotten a haircut and they thinned it out so much that your hair looked thinner afterwards. Let me know. And also when it comes to hair units, you have to agree. I mean, this looks phenomenal, right? I've seen and I see on Instagram all the time so many pictures of guys wearing hair units and they just look so unnatural because it's so thick. Where this, to me, yes, we thickened it up, but we thickened it up in just the right amount that it still looks real and still looks natural. And that's why I suggest these hair systems, this poly base right here, it's the most natural I've ever seen. Don't forget, if you use code TheSalonGuy, you get 15% off your order at Lavividhair.com. Also follow them on Instagram. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Tina. You can DM her at the Lavividhair page on Instagram, and she's very, very helpful. Mention that the Salon Guy sent you, and this is really a great option, right? A really, really great option for people if you are losing your hair and you want something to get your youth back and to get that vibe going back that you lost, or your mojo you may have lost years ago. So stay safe and healthy. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more videos with the Salon Guy.